What's going on, everybody? It's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and today I'm going to talk about the Questyle M18i. This is a retail price MSRP of about $400. It's a Bluetooth/USB DAC, kind of intended for mobile use, but also works in desktop mode thanks to the USB input. And this does go on sale for a lower price. So as of right now, it's about $350, and I have seen coupons making the prices lower. But, judge this unit based off the current sale price if you're actively shopping it. This was sent to me for review by Questyle, but I don't do any affiliate links or marketing, anything like that. If it's available on Amazon at the time of filming this, then I'll just have a generic Amazon link. Otherwise, purchase it however you like. And there was no monetary exchange for making this video. So we're going to get right into the nuts and bolts of the M18i and why you may consider it. One is the convenience. If you want something that's going to juice up your IEM or headphone listening experience, especially on the go, then you typically want some kind of external DAC. There are many different solutions out there, some of them that piggyback off the power of your phone, which are very simple and easy to use, but they can reduce the power of your phone because they're sucking the power out of it. There's also ones that have built-in batteries to, at least augment the power so you can use it as a USB DAC and not drain the battery. Then you have guys like this that are Bluetooth, but also work as a USB DAC. So I want to get right into the controls. Now this guy has a switch on it. You can see Bluetooth, you have PC icon, and then you can see a phone. When you're in Bluetooth mode, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's going to connect wirelessly to any Bluetooth compatible device, and it supports all the codecs you want. Of course, it's going to have AAC and SBC, but it also has AptX and it does LDAC as well. So you have a huge variety of codec support based off what device you're using. If you put it in PC mode, which is that middle switch on the slider there, now it's in USB DAC mode, and this single USB-C input on the back or the bottom of it, however you're holding it, this guy is going to do the data and power. So if you're using it in that mode and you want to power it off a phone, just keep in mind it's going to reduce the power of your phone over time. You do have the option to have external power though, so there's different ways you can set this up. It only comes with one short USB-C to C cable in the box, as well as a USB-A to C adapter. That's basically it for accessories. Does not come with a pouch, a clip, anything like that. They sell the pouch separately, or the carrying case, which I wish they included it, frankly, at $400. I thought it would be nice, but value is your opinion, not mine. That's just how I perceive it. Now, if you slide the switch over to the mobile mode, that's all the way here. That uses that same USB-C plug to connect to a phone or mobile device, or even your computer. It still works on computer. The difference is it's not drawing any power from USB. It's only using the USB as data. So again, you can use this for power on the side. Maybe you have a power bank, but that's going to get kind of bulky. Normally, this is what I would suggest a lot of people do, because if you're on the go, you probably don't want to, reduce your battery life on your phone quicker. However, the battery life on this is the one thing that I'm not super crazy about. It's rated for several hours, but I'm only getting about 2 to 3 hours of actual battery use. So not the best out there. There are a lot of other devices that last significantly longer, both above, below, and at this price range. It's not all negative, of course, though, because I love the rest of the performance of this. That's just the one drawback I want to point out early in case that's a deal breaker. Now, as far as the rest of the chassis goes, you have two outputs on the other end of the USB connection, which is kind of nice. It makes it a little bit easier when you're connected to a phone. You have the standard 3.5 millimeter TRS plug. Then you have the 4.4 millimeter Penticon connection, which is balanced. And of course, that has more power output. Now, Questyle provided the power output spec of 28 milliwatts at 300 ohms in balance mode, which is kind of a unique situation. I don't think a lot of people are going to use it exclusively in that configuration. So I was curious how much output power it had in single-ended mode and in different impedance loads, because a lot of IEMs are, let's say, anywhere from like 10 ohms to 32 ohms. It varies a lot. And the same thing happens with headphones. So I have another video on this if you want to learn how and why I did this, but I built my own headphone dummy load and I purchased an RME 24 Pro DAC. It's basically using the ADCs of the RME to measure input voltage from devices like this. And then I use an impedance load to generate 16, 32, 150, and 300 ohm loads. And I can use it to measure balanced and single-ended output performance. Now, mine is a pretty conservative measurement on the distortion side, so I could go into more fine increments on decibels, but in the interest of time and consistency, I basically measure the maximum output of the device before I hit 1% total harmonic distortion. And if the next volume step tips over that 1% threshold, well, then I capture the power output below that. Having said that, I did measure this at like 27.2 milliwatts at 300 ohms in 4.4 mode, which is not bad in any way. And when you look at the other measurements, naturally it's going to have more power and lower impedance when you get into like 32 and 150 ohm. So here is a chart of my measurements on each impedance, both balanced and single-ended, to hopefully give you a better idea of how this stacks up in case you are chasing a certain amount of output power. Now, a lot of people feel they need more power than they actually do, and I can tell you from experience and just learning how this stuff works, you don't quite need as many milliwatts as you'd expect, or even a full watt or two. It really comes down to how sensitive the device that you're trying to power is. So if you have something like the SJY Horizon Closed Carbon that I reviewed recently, yeah, this may not be enough juice, especially if you ever used a 3.5 millimeter connection not balanced. Balanced, it can still get loud enough to enjoy, but that needs a much more powerful amp in the first place. So that leads me into where I think a lot of people will be using this. I think many people will connect this to an IEM because there are a lot of sonic benefits to this particular DAC amp, if you will, that shines better in IEM usage. So this is the TheAudio Oracle Mark III. A little bit spicy on the high treble. I haven't reviewed this. I don't think I'm going to be, but this is a byproduct of my whole measurement effort on my Squiglink site. Link in the description for that. I picked these because they have really good bass delivery, they're highly resolving, and they have a little bit more upper treble than some other IEMs, so they're crazy resolving in detail. The reason why I wanted more upper treble emphasis is because that is usually the biggest difference with DAC amps. Bluetooth, hardwired, it doesn't matter. The filtering that you get above, let's say 16,000 hertz can vary, and a lot of time that really changes the sound signature when you compare it among other DACs and amps. So Questyle teamed up with ESS for the DAC implementation on this. It uses the ES9219Q DAC, and it's their flagship DAC. It's an awesome DAC, but that never means it's going to sound a certain way. The rest of the implementation is how it affects your sound quality, and this is where that partnership came in handy. Now, I don't believe in kind of regurgitating every marketing spec and reading off a fact sheet. One of the benefits of this implementation and what they did with their partnership with ESS is it has a claimed noise floor of below negative 130 decibels. I can't validate that, but what I can tell you is if you play this at a very high volume and you mute your track or the track is dead silent, this has no audible hiss or background noise, which is incredibly important for a highly resolving, sensitive IEM. Maybe you have something from Campfire Audio or something from TheAudio like I mentioned here. Some of those can really showcase a more poor amp structure because they're so sensitive, they're going to play everything coming in. This is incredibly dark, and you get that with certain other amps too. There's THX amps like Theo's DAC amp that came out. That's comparable to this in price overall, but that uses THX. Usually those sound a little bit darker and more compressed to me than something like this implementation. But one benefit of the THX is it's incredibly quiet. It has a really quiet noise floor. So you still get the benefit of that, but to me, this sounds a little bit more musical. And that leads me into a few comparisons. So I mentioned the accessories. I'm going to move this out of the way because I want to show you a few things. This is a $10 Apple dongle. This is the Questyle X5K. And this is the X-Duo XB2 Balance. This is an older DAC amp that I've had for a while. It's Bluetooth. It's super simple. You just turn on the knob and it has a lot of power. So comparing them all, I can tell you that the Apple dongle always punches above its weight. It's let down by obviously having zero features, somewhat limited compatibility, and depending on the device you have, obviously this isn't going to be the best solution for you. Even if you get the USB mode, especially in Europe, it's significantly underpowered compared to some other options. If you only just want to hear sound coming out of a phone, for example, and you don't need a lot of power, it's still an excellent value. You spend more for more power and more features, which takes me to the Questyle X5K, which is just over $100, and it has a 3.5 and a 2.5 millimeter balanced output. Not the most common, but they make adapters, which increases the bulkiness of it because now you have this heavier adapter converting it to a larger plug if you want the balanced power. The reason why you get this guy is for the features. Now it has a built-in clip, which I think is great. This is actually metal on the back, so the build quality is excellent for the price. What I don't like about this is the ergonomics. I feel like a caveman every time I use it, and trying to hit buttons, adjust volume, play pause, pairing mode, power cycling, it never feels natural to me. That is the only reason why I don't use it that much, because at the end of the day, user experience is a huge thing. This does have an insane amount of customization thanks to the Questyle X app. So if you want to do full parametric EQ, it does left and right EQ separately. It has UAC 1 support for PlayStation use, for example. And because it has onboard parametric EQ and TRRS support for microphone input, this is a wonderful little DAC amp for gaming too. It doesn't have a ton of power. It's not bad. And again, you can customize it, but I think, again, my personal thing, it's just their ergonomics and how it feels. It actually still sounds really good. I think they did a nice implementation with this. I didn't find any real drawbacks, and the ability to do parametric EQ can kind of like tweak things even further. Then you get something that's kind of the opposite direction. This is the XP2 Balance. Like I said, it has the traditional 3.5 and 4.4 output, the volume knob for power. The other side has dual USB because one is for power, one's for the DAC if you want to use that. But it does have Bluetooth and a microphone support to do calls with. Now this guy does it too. I'm going to do a mic test here shortly. So the difference with all of these, because this has a lot of power, if you're in high gain and the Bluetooth volume is turned up, there's a little bit of a channel imbalance or channel mismatch down here because it's using a potentiometer. So you kind of have to go to low gain for low volumes. That way you get out of that imbalanced mode, and then you switch it to high gain if you just need more power. This gets really loud. There is a huge improvement in overall output volume compared to something like the M18i. The difference is this is one of the few times where I could hear a subtle difference, especially in the treble delivery, and that was thanks to in part to the Oracle Mark III. So what happens is this sounded a little bit grainier and a little bit sharper. It didn't like sound more or less detailed, but I felt like the treble was just a little bit abrasive for me. And I never really noticed that before because one, I didn't test it with this particular IEM, and I didn't do a lot of A/Bing with this. I just plugged it in and would use it and enjoy it. But the magic with the M18i is I still felt like I heard every single detail, all the subtle stuff, but the treble was just a tad smoother. I didn't have that same overly done spicy treble. The Apple dongle delivered treble extremely well also. So just to point that out, obviously less power, but it kind of just showcased one of the design flaws, I think, or at least how the filtering is in place on this X Duo. On the Questyle X, I didn't find it to have the same issues with treble as the X Duo, but it didn't seem as powerful or robust on the bass delivery. It's more noticeable when I went to larger over-ear headphones. For IEMs, I really couldn't hear much of a difference between these two at all, which is good. You know, I think a well-implemented DAC should have next to no difference. You're kind of paying for the feature set. This is just one of those things where you're paying technically for less features and more for the engineering of just delivering a world-class listening experience at this price range, again at the sacrifice of some battery performance a little bit. So the Questyle M18i uses an Infineon microphone, and this is what my voice sounds like on the Questyle M18i. I just wanted to kind of show you for, I guess, a ballpark of what to expect for sound. This is in Bluetooth mode, connected to an older iPhone, so even the codec support isn't quite as high as it could be. But I also wanted to show you noise rejection. It does claim to have some noise rejection, and it seems to kind of learn it along the way. So I'm going to kick on this fan. You will hear it kind of louder in the beginning, and then it tapers off a little bit. So now if I start talking, you can hear my voice and that fan in the background. And if I stop talking for a second, now naturally if I hold it up to my mouth, it's going to sound better because I get that proximity effect. Don't go so close that you're over-energizing the mic and causing it to clip out. But this is what my voice sounds like closer. You can see why I wish I had some kind of a clip or even like a case with a lanyard if you're actually planning on using the mic. Otherwise, just planning on holding it whenever you're making a call. And what's really cool is the multifunction button on it can stop the recording because it will connect to the phone. So I'm going to hit that now. And there we go. Now you're hearing me on the normal shotgun mic again. Now naturally, because I game, I did want to try it for gaming, and it works great there on PC. It does ignore the Windows volume, so even if it's at 100% versus 5, this is going to be the same volume. So naturally, you'll use the steps here. You also have the ability to toggle gain mode from low to high. I pretty much only left this on high. I never found that I needed to ever use low gain, even with very sensitive IEMs, thanks to how many steps this has. Another interesting thing is, even though you can change the gain settings, when I'm on Bluetooth mode, I had no way to adjust the gain. I had to switch it to USB DAC mode to change the gain and then reconnect via Bluetooth. Because again, I pretty much always left it in high gain. That wasn't really the big deal, but it was an odd issue to have. And on the Bluetooth pairing side, one thing I do want to say is this pairs instantly every single time. The wireless performance was great, as was the range and stability, and it was more noticeable even comparing to the X Duo XP2 Balance, which I did a lot more A/Bing against. That one has had occasional dropouts, which it never did before, so I don't know if it's just because of, the change in environment since I reviewed that unit. but this one was more stable for me. So that was a really nice thing to experience. Now this has an onboard screen, but the screen is rather small. So if you don't have the best eyesight, it might be a little bit harder even to see the volume steps, because even when you adjust the volume, you don't see like a volume indicator on the screen itself. You just see that little number change in the corner. And the same thing happens with your volume percent or power level readout. It does show you the status of what you're connected to and which codec, which is really nice on the Bluetooth side. And with this supporting very high sample rates on PC, if you're using this as a USB DAC, you'll see your sample rate on the screen too. So at the end of the day, the Questyle M18i is an awesome unit. It's built really well. I love the ergonomics. It crosses in between a lot of products I like, but it doesn't have as much battery life and it doesn't have as much power as I think some people are looking for. It's just really solid for what it does do. So as long as that price is okay with you for the feature set and batteries, and you're chasing just really good sound, ease of use, good pocket size, because this is kind of in between the Questyle X, which is too small for me to use every day, and in between the X2O XP2 balance I was talking about, which takes up a lot more room in your pocket. This is like that really nice balance between them on chassis size. So I think they got it right with this. It's not perfect, and obviously the price is going to be up to you if you think it's worth it or not. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to see you at the next one. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.